In the southwest portion of the United States, there lies a vast area of 130,000 square miles, encompassing portions of the states of Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. Within this region is the nation's greatest concentration of natural attractions. It is called the Grand Circle. A 1,400-mile adventure highway of the same name has an unparalleled 7 national parks, 7 national monuments, and a remarkable variety of other natural features, as well as prehistoric Indian history. The Grand Circle lies within a region defined as the Colorado Plateau. Its complex geological history goes back 500 million years to the formation of the Rocky Mountains. Its evolution has been one of alternating wet cycles producing heavy rainfall with dense forests to very dry ones, resulting in immense, arid, sandy deserts. At one time, this land was part of a vast inland sea. As the waters retreated, heavily vegetated marshes and lagoons formed on the flat coastal plains. Here, dinosaurs thrived for a time before the age of the great reptiles came to a close. For the most part, it is a land better suited for the lizard, raven, snake, and desert bighorn. Ancient peoples watered their crops from trickling desert streams, lived in rock houses under desert cliffs, and struggled for survival. But today, we can easily travel to this highly scenic area to visit, learn, and enjoy the majestic beauty of one of the most startling landscapes on our earth. Zion was established in 1909 as Mukundawip National Monument, and in 1919 became one of our nation's premier national parks. Approaching from the southwest, the highway runs beside the peaceful Virgin River. The Visitor Center offers information about points of interest within the park. Enormous Zion Canyon with its towering 3,000-foot walls is an unexcelled example of the monumental forces of nature at work. Around the turn of the century, this old cable structure was used to lower lumber to the canyon floor. Far below, the faint line of the Virgin River weaves its way along the canyon floor. This meandering stream has performed the miracle of creating this giant canyon. Beautiful and placid most of the time, it can become a raging torrent, cutting and deepening its rocky channel. But to the visitor, the gentle stream only reflects the glory of the towering cliffs and peaks that surround it. The beauty and grandeur of these great walls fill the visitor with feelings of peace and reverence. The names bestowed by early pioneers and visitors upon its natural features reflect similar emotions. The three patriarchs, West Temple, Pulpit, Temple of Sinawava, Angel's Landing, Great Streaked Wall, The Watchman, Mountain of the Sun. Rustic Zion Lodge nestles on the valley floor. Nearby is the pleasant quarter-mile Emerald Pool Trail. It crosses the Virgin River and reaches the overhanging cliff face where seeping water flows from above, creating a year-round source of enjoyment. Great rock walls tower above Upper Emerald Pool. Another popular visitor spot is Weeping Rock. Here, porous Navajo sandstone acts as a substantial water reservoir. Water traveling downward through the rock reaches impervious layers, forcing it to travel horizontally. Eventually, it emerges from the canyon walls at places such as misty Weeping Rock. One of the most strenuous and popular trails in the park is the Narrows. The Virgin River winds its way through narrow, towering walls. Much of the 16-mile one-way trip involves wading through the river. Because this route may be hazardous, check at the visitor center for current conditions. Zion receives 10 to 20 inches of precipitation annually. But sudden summer thunderstorms can bring a deluge that turns trickling streams into torrents and changes the usually gentle flowing Virgin into a river of roaring, churning force. Seven miles north of the south entrance is the Temple of Sinawava and the 150-foot high pulpit. The Great White Throne looms 2,000 feet above the river. Towers of the Virgin and the West Temple dominate the southern part of Zion Valley. The East Rim and Hidden Canyon trails offer panoramic views of the canyon. Fluted sandstone formations along Hidden Canyon Trail have been created by erosion. There's a wide variety of wildlife found here. Desert and plateau habitats harbor more than 270 species of birds and a smaller but interesting mix of mammals. Leaving the Great Valley of Zion, the scenic highway to the east leads upwards to the Zion Tunnel. Canyon Overlook offers magnificent views of the canyon. Near the east entrance, cone-shaped checkerboard mesa is composed almost entirely of white Navajo sandstone. The waffled appearance is the result of vertical fractures caused by repeated heating and cooling of the rock, superimposed over horizontal layers of sandstone. North of Zion, Cedar Breaks National Monument is carved into the 10,300-foot western rim of the Markagund Plateau. Here, the visitor finds a gigantic, multicolored amphitheater, 2,500 feet deep, and 3 miles from rim to rim. Although similar to Bryce, it has a character and beauty all its own. When winter comes to the plateau region, it creates some of the world's finest deep powder snow. Located at 10,000 feet, adjacent to Cedar Breaks, Bryan Head Ski Resort's well-groomed runs offer some of the world's finest skiing. Both downhill and cross-country skiing are available. Top-rated as a winter resort, Bryan Head is also a summer resort with bicycling and other summertime activities. Bryce Canyon National Park is located along the eastern edge of the Pontchartrain Plateau and is one of the world's geologic masterpieces. Bryce Canyon is not really a canyon at all, but a series of spectacular amphitheaters carved by erosion over eons of time. Its complex formations of brightly colored spires, pinnacles, and canyon walls are eroded from an ancient lake bed. At an average 8,500 feet, it is only slightly lower than Cedar Breaks. From Rainbow Point, near the southern end of the 21-mile-long Rim Drive, a panoramic view extends to the north and east. Nearby Yovimpa Point provides a sweeping view of the plateau and canyon country to the south. The enduring bristlecone pine is found here. Clinging to barren ridges where other trees could not survive, the bristlecone's longevity is partly due to its efficient use of its natural resources. Unlike other pines, it retains its needles for decades, and in time of drought produces no new growth. Some of these trees have survived for over 1,600 years. There are many fine overlooks along the rim. At Agua Canyon Viewpoint, nature has carved a remarkable series of pinnacles. Bryce's Natural Bridge, 125 feet above the gully below, is a formation that always catches the visitor's eye. The meadows and forests of the plateau support an exceptionally diverse group of wildlife, including pronghorn antelope, mule deer, and elk. Bryce Canyon National Park, located higher, is younger than Zion, and geologically speaking, softer, accounting for more rapid erosion. Bryce Point, with its outstanding view, lets the visitor see the result of this rapid erosion in a scene that is one of the most popular in the park. A number of important trails originate at Bryce Point. These include the nearly 4-mile-long Peekaboo Trail. The trail offers a spectacular view of Bryce Point from below. Sunset Point provides an opportunity to observe a virtual sea of formations of all sizes and shapes. Many, such as the sinking ship, are aptly named. The Navajo Trail begins here with what seems like an endless series of switchbacks. Delightfully imaginative names describe Thor's hammer and the windows. To fully comprehend the delicate beauty of Bryce, it is necessary to get down below the rim and look up. It is only then that the visitor becomes truly aware of the exquisite beauty of this wild and colorful area. This is one of the jewels of the National Park Service. To the east, Capitol Reef National Park is a largely undiscovered treasure of America's national park system. It is a land of surprising, sometimes incredible contrasts. Its unusual name was arrived at a century ago because of the rounded grayish-white domes resembling the U.S. Capitol dome. Reef is a nautical term that is used to describe a barrier to passage, which Capitol Reef certainly is. This dome is the best known in the park, perhaps because its name is Capitol Dome. The Great Wall of Capitol Reef rising up from the valley floor acted as a barrier to early pioneers. But there is much more to the park than the reef itself. In the midst of this arid vastness, where the Fremont River and Sulphur Creek meet, there's an oasis of green orchards and farmlands. A century ago, Mormon families settled here, built farms, planted crops, and established the town of Fruita. The last residents moved away in the 1960s. It is now preserved and maintained by the National Park Service, who have their headquarters here. Most visitor activity is located along Highway 24, which is the main access road. The highway meets and follows the Fremont River. More than 1,000 years ago, the earliest people arrived here traveling through these same canyons. They settled on the banks of the Fremont River. These Indians planted crops such as drought-resistant maize along the river. and lived in pit houses in the rocky hills above their fields. Although they built no elaborate cliff dwellings like their Anasazi neighbors, they left behind evidence of their skills. Remarkable rock art or petroglyphs depict broad-shouldered people with headdresses, necklaces, and shields. The 1-mile-long trail to Hickman Bridge climaxes with this soaring curve of rock highlighted against the backdrop of giant domes. South of the visitor center, the park's scenic drive runs along the multicolored face of Capitol Reef. Capitol Gorge at one time was the only state roadway across central Utah. Today the road is gone, but the gorge remains popular with hikers and exhibits numerous water pockets. Grand Wash is a deep slash in a cliff just off the scenic drive. It is marked by a long, narrow gorge with towering sandstone walls that are honeycombed by thousands of years of erosion. The Golden Throne is stained to a golden hue by minerals from its caprock. This unusual formation is the Castle. North of Highway 24 is Cathedral Valley with its great church-like spires soaring 500 feet into the sky. Nearby is the vast arid South Desert with its sculptured cliffs and buttes. Strike Valley and the Great Water Pocket Fold is an extraordinary geological feature, a 100-mile-long rock backbone of which Capitol Reef is only a small part. The Burr Trail Road is one of the most spectacular in the park, offering breathtaking views of Strike Valley. Here at Capitol Reef, we are in the heart of canyon country. To the northeast of Capitol Reef is mysterious Goblin Valley. It is the home of thousands of eerie Entrada sandstone sculptures. They appear in endless forms of fantastic creatures and haunting shapes. Goblin Valley is indeed the right name for this unusual geological showcase. Farther east along the Grand Circle route are the petroglyphs of remote San Rafael Reef. Everyone who views them is astounded by their size and the skill of the unknown artists who created them. Dead Horse Point State Park offers one of the most spectacular visitor viewpoints in the United States. It overlooks the Colorado River 2,000 feet below and hundreds of square miles of highly colored mountains, canyons, and gorges. To the south lies nearby Canyonland National Park. The Colorado and Green Rivers are cruised by a number of tour boats that transport visitors to areas that cannot be reached by more conventional means. Texas River Cruises is one such service. Colorful Tex McClatchy has been exploring the rivers for much of his life, and a journey on his tour boat is one that will always be remembered. The river trip covers a 100-mile-long length of the Green and Colorado rivers. Despite the strong current, the river is placid and beautiful. Immense rock walls tower on all sides. Incredibly diverse formations and landscapes are everywhere. The distant formation left of center was named by John Wesley Powell the Buttes of the Cross. An interesting stop along the way is a visit to an isolated ancient Indian ruin below the towering cliffs. The 527-square-mile Canyonlands National Park has literally been created by the mighty Colorado and Green Rivers. They have carved it into 3 districts. One, the island in the sky, lies between the 2 rivers. The Needles district lies to the east of the Colorado River, while to the west of both rivers lies the Maze, the most isolated and least visited area. These river gorges have been created over 150 million years, with the rivers slowly cutting and gouging their way deeper into the rock strata of the plateau. Canyonlands is a red rock landscape. Incredible rock formations are everywhere, with only a spattering of plant life visible to the visitor. An unpaved road cuts sharply up the cliff face of Schaefer Canyon, leading eventually to the island in the sky mesa. The mesa is the remnant of a high plateau carved away by the rivers. Potholes trap moisture from melted snow and rainfall. Musselman Arch is one of the highlights of the white rim road that circles the mesa. Mesa Arch frames the distant La Salle Mountains. Superb views are found all along the rim. One of the best is the Green River overlook. Grand View Overlook is the most spectacular and popular viewpoint with visitors. Nowhere else can one grasp so quickly the park's formidable topography. From Murphy Point, the visitor is able to obtain a distant view of the maze. Leaving the island in the sky, every turn brings new vistas. There are many ways to see Canyonlands. One is by four-wheel drive roads. But however you get there, Needles is geologically distinctive and scenically inspiring. It is appropriately named for the sharp-pointed spires that are its most prominent features. The Colorado River Overlook affords a striking view of the Colorado River. Angel Arch is one of the most beautiful and distinctive arches in Utah. It well deserves its status as the symbol of Canyonlands. This giant pothole arch has the right name, Paul Bunyan's Potty. The first primitive Indians arrived in Canyonlands about 8,000 to 10,000 years ago. Other cultures followed, but they all vanished, leaving behind a record of their passing with these ruins and prehistoric Indian rock art. Priceless pictographs such as these are painted on the rock surface using mineral dyes indicative of the skilled artisans who created these fragile treasures. In Canyonlands, the spectacular is commonplace, and the unique is everyday. Arches National Park lies at the very heart of the famed Red Rock country of southeastern Utah. It covers some 114 square miles of semi-desert terrain and contains more natural stone arches than any other area of the country. The park road leads the visitor first to an area with sheer walls known as Park Avenue, resembling a city street with tall buildings. Southeast of the park, the La Salle Mountains reach an elevation of over 12,000 feet. Northeast of Park Avenue is the Courthouse Towers. All of the formations and arches are the remains of an ancient mesa that has eroded away. The Three Gossips. Sheep Rock, many of the park's startling rock sculptures are aptly named. Courthouse Wash may seem like an insignificant stream, but at times it has flowed with the fury of a flash flood. There are countless spires, pinnacles, and rocks of unique form that are popular with visitors, one of which is Balanced Rock. Its total height is 128 feet, of which the huge Balanced Rock is 55 feet. Its estimated weight would approximate 1,600 automobiles. Marvelous Double Arch is 163 feet in length and 105 feet in height, the second largest arch in the park. Distinctive Turret Arch, set amidst the splendid background of the La Salle Mountains, has 3 separate openings. Here, nature has created 2 arches side by side. They are the North Window and South Window, collectively referred to as the Spectacles. The fanciful Eye of the Whale. The Fiery Furnace is a maze of thin spires and narrow passageways. It was named for the warm, reddish glow of its Entrada sandstone in the late afternoon sun. Skyline Arch rises alongside the main park road. Devil's Garden lies at the end of the park road. Many arches are found in this scenic area, including Broken Arch. Pine Tree Arch. Landscape Arch is one of the great arches of the world. At an incredible 306 feet, it is the world's longest arch. Then there is Wall Arch, Partition Arch, and Double O Arch. The Dark Angel overlooks Salt Valley. The Wolf family cabin reminds us of the first known white settlers in arches. Delicate Arch may well be the most famous natural span in the world. Its delicate, rare beauty is reflected in its name that has become the symbol of the park. To some, Arches National Park may seem just a land of strange and exotic landforms. But there is much more. It is a land of many rare qualities, a true desert paradise. The rocks of Newspaper Rock State Park have recorded 2,000 years of human history. Petroglyphs pecked into the desert varnish on Wingate sandstone depict and record prehistoric peoples, more recent Indian tribes, and even early explorers. Southwest of Arches National Park is Natural Bridges National Monument. Its major features are the 3 great natural bridges and significant Indian ruins. Excellent trails lead to each bridge. The first bridge, Sipapu, is the largest of the 3, measuring 220 feet in height. It has a span of 268 feet and is 53 feet thick. Natural bridges are categorized as young, mature, and old. Sipapu is a mature bridge. Another trail leads the visitor past ancient Indian ruins. In prehistoric times, the plateau was occupied by the Anasazi, who were cliff dwellers. They built their homes and shelters under the massive cliffs for protection. About 700 years ago, a climatic change occurred, and it may have forced the Anasazi to abandon their dwellings and leave the region. They were later followed by the Ute and Paiute Indians. Kachina Bridge is categorized as a young bridge. It measures 210 feet in height with a span of 206 feet and has an opening of 44 feet. Natural bridges are eroded by running water, whereas natural arches are created by other erosive forces. Owachomo is a fragile old bridge nearing its inevitable collapse. It is only 9 feet thick, and yet, amazingly, it has a span of 180 feet. Scenic Highway 261 is a connecting link between Natural Bridges National Monument and the Valley of the Gods. The 17-mile trip to Valley of the Gods is an adventure that no one should miss. Easily driven, it features outstanding sandstone sculptures and is a photographer's paradise. Near the Grand Circle route, Muley Point offers spectacular views of vast areas of canyon country. The canyon rim at Gooseneck State Park provides a perfect view of the odd series of goosenecks on the San Juan River, 1,000 feet below. These sweeping switchbacks cause the river to flow nearly 6 miles to make 1 mile of headway westward. Many people travel through Mexican Hat, but few realize that its name is derived from this near-perfect natural sculpture of a Mexican hat. Hovenweep National Monument is located on the Utah-Colorado border. It is comprised of 6 separate groups of ruins scattered within the canyons and mesas of the park. They are the ancient ruins of the pre-Columbian Pueblo Indians and were built about 1200 AD. The rocky terrain was well suited for the massive amount of building that was completed, such as these twin towers. The remarkable ruins are a tribute to the builders' masonry skills, which included castles, towers, irrigation dams, cliff dwellings, and pueblos. A visit to these ancient ruins is a step back in time to another era, where human survival depended on their resourcefulness and the whims of nature. These skilled people abandoned their pueblos sometime around 1300 AD, probably for the same reason that their neighbors, the Anasazi of Mesa Verde, abandoned theirs at about the same time. At Mesa Verde National Park, millions of years of erosion have created a vast system of deep canyons and isolated mesas. Early man first inhabited the mesa tops and then the canyons. They eventually evolved into a unique civilization which we refer to as the Anasazi, the Ancient Ones. Today, a modern roadway transports visitors to the great pueblos under the cliffs. About 10,000 years ago, early hunters roamed the Colorado Plateau region. Then, about AD 550, a people known as the Modified Basket Makers built permanent semi-underground pit houses. They were simple structures made of poles and logs and covered with juniper bark and mud. Beginning about AD 750, their descendants began to construct surface structures on the mesa tops. Several centuries later, other Anasazis, using improved building techniques, built Farview House, one of the larger mesa top villages. Water, seldom plentiful, played an important part in the life of the Anasazi. Mummy Lake is part of their impressive water system. A man-made reservoir, it collected water from runoff and emptied it into this basin. The earliest pit houses consisted of a large chamber dug several feet into the ground and a smaller antechamber. Later, the Anasazi built kivas, which were underground religious chambers. AD 750 saw the beginning of the familiar Pueblo construction. Coyote House, AD 1050, offers evidence of the transition from small villages to larger towns. By AD 1150, some of the Pueblo people began to move under the canyon rims, and by AD 1200, construction of the large cliff dwellings was underway. Spruce Tree House is third largest and best preserved of these spectacular Pueblo villages. At 86 feet, Square Tower House ruin is the tallest in the park. The Anasazi may have moved under the cliffs for protection against some feared enemy, or perhaps as shelter against the elements. At one time, 5,000 people may have lived in the pueblos of Mesa Verde. In December 1888, Richard Wetherill and Charlie Mason came upon the magnificent ruins of Cliff Palace, which would prove to be the largest cliff dwelling in North America. In 1891, a young Swedish scientist, Gustav Nordenskjöld, introduced the Wetherills to systematic archaeology and record-keeping. This provided the impetus that led to the establishing of Mesa Verde National Park in 1906. Popular Balcony House was built on a high, easily defended ledge. The 3-foot-high wall was thought to be built to keep youngsters from toppling over the cliff. Long House, as its name implies, is a long dwelling and is the second largest ruin in Mesa Verde. Never completed, the Sun Temple was the peak of the golden age of the Pueblo culture. Suddenly, for no certain reason, it was over. The Anasazi vanished, leaving their great cities under the cliffs to slowly crumble away. Now, partially restored by the National Park Service, they stand as a glorious monument to these incredibly talented people. Today's visitors to the historic mining town of Silverton little realize that the exciting Silverton-Durango narrow-gauge railroad, which was completed in 1882, was built primarily to transport ore from the colorful nearby mines to a smelter at Durango. This is the most scenic railroad found in all of Colorado. A trip on this delightful train, either from Silverton or Durango, is an experience you will never forget. The rock cut is near the important landmark of Rockwood Siding. The stretch of track known as the High Line is the greatest thrill on your journey and one of the most exciting in all of railroading. Some passengers still shrink away from the canyon side and its straight-down drop to the Animas River. The sheer sandstone walls of Canyon de Chelly soar over 1,000 feet into the sky, while far below, ruins of an ancient civilization stand empty. The great canyon walls reflect the sunlight from beyond the canyon's rim, while below, meandering waters flow through the canyon. The canyon's south rim and north rim drives take in a total of 12 overlooks, providing fine views of the canyons and ruins below. Special tours led by knowledgeable Navajo guides can take you on an exciting canyon adventure. Guides explain the history of the canyon's ancient peoples and the Navajos that live, herd sheep, and farm here today. The Anasazi people occupied Canyon de Chelly for almost 1,000 years, and then they too vanished in the 13th century. The seasons are striking at Canyon de Chelly, and none more so than the first storm of winter. With the sun's return, the beauty of winter at Canyon de Chelly is revealed in all its glory. Located within the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, Lake Powell, with nearly 2,000 miles of shoreline, is one of the largest man-made lakes in the world. It is named for John Wesley Powell, whose expeditions brought him here in 1869. It offers a wide variety of recreation, plus some of the most magnificent lakeside scenery found anywhere. All of this is due to the presence of massive Glen Canyon Dam, which harnesses the wild Colorado River. There are several excellent marinas on the lake, including Waweep, set amid huge rock formations in Waweep Bay. It was founded by river pioneers Art Green and his family. Boating is a popular sport on the lake. Whether it be on an open beach or in a secluded cove, camping out on the lakeshore is an enjoyable experience. And of course, the water skiing can't be beat. There's great fishing, too. And all kinds of watercraft. Also, there is another exciting sport here, parasailing. Many popular boat tours are available. Entering Padre Bay, a visitor is immediately struck by the towering buttes that ring the shore. A number of scenes from major movies have been made here, including The Greatest Story Ever Told. Far below is the Great Rainbow Bridge, the largest natural bridge in the world. The Navajo call it the Rainbow of Stone and consider it a sacred place. Until recently, it was one of the most remote and inaccessible regions in the contiguous United States. Today, because of Lake Powell, it is accessible by boat. Now protected by the National Park Service as a national monument, this great bridge arches to a height of 290 feet, spans 275 feet, with a top 42 feet thick and 33 feet wide. There is no better and more exciting way to see the ever-changing panoramas of Lake Powell, Monument Valley, and portions of the Grand Canyon than by air. Scenic air tours of this region are offered from the Page Airport at Lake Powell and from Goulding's Trading Post in Monument Valley. Monument Valley has some of the most photogenic landscapes in the world, and a trip through this wondrous place leaves you with a pleasure of never-to-be-forgotten memories. Guided tours begin here at Goulding's Trading Post. Monument Valley was established as a tribal park in 1958 by the Navajo Tribal Council. Late in the day, near the trading post, Goulding's offers a real feast. A cookout by your Navajo friends with thick steaks. The Navajo Nation numbers over 150,000 members, and they are the largest and fastest growing Indian tribe in the United States. Monument Valley is one of nature's most artistic creations. Carved red sandstone buttes, slender sky-reaching spires and monoliths bear names like the Totem Pole, the Three Sisters, Rooster Rock. Weather-carved arches loom tall above the valley floor. It's not surprising that hundreds of movies have been made here, including John Ford's immortal Stagecoach with John Wayne. Three austere columns point skyward. They are the Three Sisters. Here, the stately totem pole and the Yebiche stand as sentinels. The Yebiche resemble the real dancers that appear at a religious Navajo ceremony. The totem pole stands 32 stories high, yet it is hardly thicker than an elevator shaft. The warm-colored sand dunes are found in many areas of Monument Valley. But when the storm winds blow and the sand moves, it is symmetry in motion. Sand Springs, although surrounded by dunes, provides the best water supply in the valley. North Window offers another grand vista. But this is the land of the Navajo, and has been for many generations. They learned agriculture from the Pueblos and acquired livestock from the Spaniards. They adopted a pastoral way of life that many still follow today, not living in villages or towns, but in scattered family camps. They are a proud and determined people that follow their traditions and family ties. small abandoned masonry structures dotting the cliffs and canyons of Monument Valley tell of the first people to occupy this country. They were the Anasazi, or Ancient Ones. For over 1,000 years, these simple farmers planted fields of beans, squash, and corn, supplemented with wild plants and game. Then about 1250 AD, they too disappeared. To most, Monument Valley is a place that defies description, but you will never forget it. Navajo National Monument has 3 of the largest and most intricate of known cliff dwellings. They represent a version of the prehistoric Pueblo culture, or Anasazi, at its peak in the 13th century. Quetzal Ruin was discovered by Richard Wetherill in 1893. It is the largest cliff ruin in Arizona and one of the last to be abandoned by the Anasazi. Quetzal has 160 rooms and 6 kivas, or ceremonial chambers, and fills a giant alcove in a Navajo sandstone cliff. Batatakin, which means hillside house, is a 700-year-old well-preserved apartment house. It is set in another large opening in a sandstone cliff and contains 135 rooms. As is the case with the other Anasazi people in the Southwest, they too disappeared around the end of the 13th century. Pipe Spring was declared a national monument by President Harding in 1923 to commemorate the struggle for exploration and settlement of the Southwest. Its centerpiece is the old stone fort at Pipe Spring, built by Mormon pioneers in the 1860s. It was built to protect settlers in the region from Indian uprisings. Today, visitors will enjoy this pleasant oasis and reminisce about those distant times through interpretive exhibits offered here. At the edge of the 8,500-foot Kaibab Plateau is the isolated north rim of the Grand Canyon. Although visitation here is small compared to its big sister across the canyon, the grandeur and beauty is just as overwhelming. There are many spectacular overlooks along the rim, but Bright Angel Point and the area near the lodge is the center of visitor activity. At the undiscovered side of the canyon, a refreshing new dimension awaits the visitor with tall pines, lush meadows, abundant wildlife, and a slower pace. At the rim's edge, the limestone is over 225 million years old. But down in the canyon's inner gorge, the dark walls are more than 2 billion years old. Cape Royal is the name of the tip of a long plateau that juts far out into the canyon. It is a popular spot with visitors. At Point Imperial, the most conspicuous landmark is Mount Hayden, shaped like a thumb. It is composed of hard sandstone. Historic Grand Canyon Lodge, perched on the very rim of the vast gorge, offers one of the most dramatic settings of any hotel in the world. In all the world, there is no more astonishing landscape than the Grand Canyon. Millions of people come from around the world to visit the most popular of our national parks. As much as a mile deep, 277 miles long, up to 18 miles across, its breathtaking beauty and scope leave most visitors overwhelmed and inspired. Visitor activities center around the village, which includes the historic El Tovar Hotel that nestles on the canyon rim. The village itself extends about 1.5 miles through the pine forests and includes popular Hopi House. Many marvelous viewpoints of the canyon are found near the village. There's an infinite variety of shapes and forms among the rocks. Meet a duck on the rock. To many, there is no more exciting adventure than a mule trip down into the canyon to Phantom Ranch. Traveling by foot or mule, the trail zigzags downward in a series of switchbacks. Mather Point, named for the first head of the National Park Service, affords outstanding views of the canyon. From here, the Colorado River is a tiny, silvery line giving only a hint of the whitewater chaos 1 mile below. About 65 million years ago, forces within the earth uplifted this area. The raging river, aided by erosion, then began its long process of creating the enormous canyon. And it still continues today. The East Rim Drive is a 23-mile adventure with a number of important overlooks, including Yaqui, Grandview, Moran, and Lippin. Moving eastward, the canyon grows shallower, the river closer, and the landscape less rugged. Near the east entrance is the watchtower. There's no better place to see the geology of the canyon than here. The Grand Canyon and its changing seasons represent only one of many points of interest in the kaleidoscope known as the Grand Circle Adventure. We have had only a glimpse of some of the most spectacular country on Earth.